Well, hello there to all the good people of Ohio and beyond. This is Aaron Knapp, and you're tuned into Unplugged, broadcasting without permission. This is a place where the truth gets louder and we dig deeper, and where we always remember be lawful, not awful. If you want the full stories, the documents, the videos, and everything they don't want you to see, head on over to Aaron Knapp Unplugged.com, my new home for every investigation, every episode, and every update. And while you're here, be sure to like the video, follow the page, and hit subscribe, and share this with someone who needs the truth. We're building something real here. We're building something fearless, and we're doing it together. Welcome to Unplugged. Let's kick this thing off.
Plug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask.
Good afternoon there, Lorain County, Lorain City, and the rest of Ohio. Hey, we're doing something new here today. That's right, we're actually gonna go live. So I'm live here today, folks. I'm trying this out on a couple of different streams through my system, so I apologize in advance if there's any hiccups along the way. That being said, I'd like to welcome you guys here to my first live episode with this new streaming software. I know I've been doing a lot of video recordings lately, and this here is going to be a mega episode, right? It's going to be a mega episode for sure. This mega episode is The System is Broken. That's right, folks. We're going to do The System is Broken today. And today I want to talk to you about something that people keep pretending is really complicated when it's not. All right. We are living inside a government system that lies, retaliates, fabricates, rewrites, and then gets offended when someone points out their, emperor is absolutely, unmistakably, undeniably naked. All right. I don't know what to tell them. Like, this episode is going to be around a couple hours, and there's a reason for it. Because the truth is not a single story, it's the intersection of all of them. That's right, folks, all of them. Sheffield Lake's election interference, the false criminal threats, Lorain City Council's illegal weapons ordinance, the manipulation of official minutes, ADA violations, retaliation campaigns, the decades-long destruction of the Nancy Smith file, or Nancy Smith's life, and the very human cost of a justice system that refuses to admit it is wrong, even when the evidence is sitting there screaming in its face. I gotta respond to Garen here real quick. Anyway, everything you're about to hear, it actually connects, folks. Everything that you're about to hear fits a pattern, folks. And everything you're about to hear is the reason people in Lorain County, disabled people, poor people, critics, parents, victims, wrongfully accused citizens don't trust the government anymore. They've watched too many times as too many lives were crushed by mistakes, right? That are not really mistakes, right? They're tactics. That's the problem. They're not mistakes. They're strategies. They're not mistakes. They are the tools of control, folks. And the reason I'm doing this episode, right, is because this thing's gone on long enough. It's long and thorough. It's going to be absolutely unfiltered because, well, I'm done with the polite version of accountability. I'm done pretending that the system just needs a little tune-up, right? I'm done accepting the idea that these political officials who knowingly lie on the record should keep their jobs, while the people they harm consistently get told to, just calm down, file a form. Please. Today, we're getting to the bottom of the full story, right? Today is about every broken piece laid bare. You're going to hear what happened in Sheffield Lake when a mayor tried to criminalize a political website and then overturn a 72% election because the voters dared to pick the wrong guy. I get it. I mean, hey, I get it. You're going to hear how Lorain City Council passed an openly illegal weapons ordinance, right? One that I directly told them. I told them violated state law. I personally handed them the evidence, the statutes, the corrections, and the warnings. And you will hear what happened when the clerk of council manipulated the official minutes to make me look like a disruption while deleting the shouting and the aggressive behavior from the city's own safety service director, Ray Carrion. You're going to hear how these false minutes became an ADA issue, a retaliation issue, and a civil rights issue. And right in the middle of this episode, right at its emotional core, you're going to hear the voice, the video, the voice of Amber Bronish, whose mother, Nancy Smith, was wrongfully imprisoned for crimes that never happened, a woman who had her life stolen, then restored, then threatened again by the very government more interested in preserving its power than protecting its innocence. You know, and I know people who've seen the pictures. Amber and I are now working together professionally because she wants the same thing I want. I want the truth. I want justice. I want an end to the abuse that has followed her mother for 30 fucking years. This episode is the whole picture, folks. This is not fragments. It's not going to be a bunch of headlines, not pieces convenient to the powerful. All of it's connected. Everything. I'm a little scared. It's kind of exciting. I haven't felt scared in a long time. Ugh. So, folks, if you listen closely, you're going to hear the same theme over and 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 over again. Retaliation. Suppression. False narratives. That's right, folks. You too can have some false narratives. And that's right, abuse of authority. So, some disregard for the law, maybe. A little fear of accountability dashed in there. And ordinary people being punished for telling the truth. That's right, folks. Telling the truth. The truth. I mean, like, I thought, like, you guys are a bunch of religious people around here, right? So, the truth is what the Bible talks about. This isn't drama, as some would say. It's not an exaggeration. This is your government, folks. You know, we can sit back and look and people laugh on Facebook and they joke. And I know, you know, some people like to put their little comments down. I don't care. Because for every little like, for every little comment, for every little thing, you're driving the system. You're driving the very mechanisms that will lead to your defeat. You may think it's a joke. But I guarantee you the people at City Hall don't think it's a joke anymore. I guarantee you the people in City Council now understand the damage that they've done to these people. And they understand that the beast that they've unleashed in me. I mean, just like Japan bombing Pearl Harbor, I fear what you did was unleash a giant. Because now, as one person I know recently said, you are my hobby. You are my job. I'm unplugged with Aaron Knapp. And guess what? I'm going to be all over these people. Because now I'm going to fulfill my lifelong dream that I was trying to fulfill when I was a kid. I still got some articles back there. I wanted to be a news journalist. Set to go to Ohio. I went to Ohio State. I was set to go to Fresno State. Be a Bulldog. That didn't happen. So now we start at the beginning, right? The mega episode. The system's broken. And we're gonna start tonight by grounding everything you're about to hear in one reality, right? None of this is hypothetical. None of this is metaphorical. And none of it's a maybe. Every single thing, all of it that I'm about to walk you through has happened. It's documented. It's on audio. It's in minutes. It's in meeting videos. It's in court filings. It's in police reports, in public records, in direct quotes from officials, and in the real world lives of people who have to live with the consequences. And that matters, folks. Because when I talk about corruption, when I talk about retaliation, when I talk about the lies in the record or the abuses of the position, there's always some official, always, who says, well, that's just your interpretation. Or that's just your opinion. That's how you perceived it. Or what, the classic, that's the Rashomon effect, which is what Chief James McCann told me when officers falsified a narrative about me confronting them in a hallway, even though the video proved the exact opposite. But okay. When you hear, and what you will hear in this episode is not perception, it's actual evidence, folks, that I've collected over the last 2 years and that I've got from other people over the last 2 years and 3. And the problem with the evidence is that once you have it, once you can prove a pattern, the excuses no longer work. The denials no longer work. The waited out strategy no longer works because the truth stops being a matter of debate and it becomes a matter of record. And when the public record contradicts the government's story, well, that's when the system starts to get looking a little over its shoulder, right? That's exactly why the Minute scandal in Lorain matters. That's why the illegal weapons ordinance matters. That's why the Sheffield Lake retaliation situation matters. And that's why, and that's where, and why the Nancy Smith case still matters 30 years later. 30 years later. Because when the system breaks, it breaks in very predictable ways, folks. Every one of those ways shows up in stories that, we're about to unpack in this episode. And boy, are we going to unpack some stuff today. And, we're going to unpack a little bit of weaponizing the process, some retaliation against critics, manipulating the records, ignoring statutory limits, protecting insiders, punishing the vulnerable, pushing them to the end of their wits' end by punishing the vulnerable, choosing the ego and their ego over law. So right there, I'm going to take a quick stop for a quick station identification by our sponsors, and we will be right back. But when we come back, we're going to be looking at Sheffield Lake. A mayor attempted to criminalize a political website because he didn't like what it said, folks. That's the mayor, Rocky Radiff. So stay tuned, folks. After this word from our sponsors, we will be right back.
Here at Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, we like to thank our sponsors. We have a few unofficial sponsors tonight, and they are definitely not paid sponsorships. I want to throw out there a big thank you to Joseph Jones and Eric Jones of the Lorain Daily and the Vermilion Daily. They have a local news page. You should check them out. They do plenty of great work broadcasting all the news that is the news that you want to have in Lorain and Lorain County. So check them out. Also, please, if you need any legal services, feel free to reach out to Robert Gargas. You can find him listed online. He's a fine attorney and comes highly recommended by yours truly. And last but not least, I want to mention DNC Radio. Please make sure you check out one of the up-and-coming internet hip-hop stations and all of their shows. They put on a lot of shows. You have the Never Outdone show. You also have the Eric Bowen show, Speak Up, Speak Out. So please make sure you guys check them out as well if you're looking for your latest and up-to-date hip-hop artistry. Thank you for tuning in. This has been...
All right, guys, we're back live here. We're going to take a look at Sheffield Lake, a mayor who attempted to criminalize a political website. So, Mayor Radiff over there in Sheffield Lake, he attempted to criminalize a political website because he didn't like exactly what it said, right? He issued a cease and desist order that accused a citizen of telecommunications fraud, even though no statute applied. And that citizen was, John Moreau, councilman-elect. We all know I've had, my words about him in regards to one specific thing. But as I always say, the truth is the truth and the law is the law. And this was not proper. The Case Western Reserve First Amendment Clinic reviewed it. Andrew Geronimo, very respected over there, said effectively that this is nonsense, right? It's intimidation. And when it didn't work, the next move was to try to overturn a 72% election by pretending that an expired eligibility challenge could suddenly be resurrected months after the deadline. You can't do that. Look at Lorraine. The city council passed an ordinance 160-25 that directly violates Ohio state law. That's not accidentally. That's not in one line. That's across multiple sections. RC 9.68 is not ambiguous. It says municipalities cannot regulate firearms, ammunition, or its components. The Ohio Supreme Court has upheld it twice. It's black letter law, folks. Black letter law. I personally stood in front of that council and I warned them. I handed them printed material referencing the exact constitutional, statutory, and preemptive issues that I gave them. It had corrected language that would have actually made the ordinance legal. And they ignored every single word. Not because the arguments were wrong, not because the citations were wrong, but they decided that the existence of multiple doctorates in council office somehow superseded the Ohio Revised Code, right? Riley stood up there at this meeting and he was like, I think, personally, that we have the greatest department in all of Lorain County. I mean, I could be wrong there. He might have said city or just the city. I'm not sure, but it was something to that effect. And we are intelligent. We have 4 doctorates amongst us. And we are the guardians of all that is right. I mean, I may have exaggerated that part. And we will smash all people who get in our way, especially Aaron Knapp and Garen Petty. I mean, I definitely added that part. But, I mean, he got up there and he was just like, we're so brilliant, right? Ego-driven. We're brilliant. Like, oh, my shoulder. Oh, I think I dislocated it, patting myself on the back like the rest of city council. And so somehow he thought he was smarter than the revised code. I mean, literally, Google could have told him 9.68 would have superseded his dumb law. Hey, but when the government starts thinking it outranks the law, that's not just arrogance, right? That's some dangerous shit. Look at the minute scandal. The written minutes on the October 20th meeting deleted the shouting and disruption caused by the safety service director, deleted Councilwoman Springowski, calling him by name, trying to calm him down. Ray. None of that. None of that's in there. But, it exists.
Down to all of our departments and assure that as part of our regular checklist that we have for many projects, that we can visit this. This is not a common area because we typically don't waive fees. So it's one of those areas that we'll revisit here as we move along.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion.
Say something? Then why are we? Say something? Then why are we? You want to get an attitude? You work for me, Carrion. Yeah, get it. Do it.
Mr. Knapp, let's have it.
No, your employee is addressing me, sir. No.
Excuse me, President Arredondo.
You better calm down, boy.
President Arredondo.
Madam Springowski.
At this point, I would move to a point of order and ask that you recess the meeting until this gets all straightened out, because this is disruptive to our agenda.
This was our agenda. Yeah, our agenda. The agenda to run over citizens and treat them like shit.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mary. I really appreciate you stopping the meeting. Did you do that when your agenda got disrupted when Tia Hilton did that? Did you do that when anyone else did it? Have you done it when anyone you brought down there did it? No, you just did it when Ray actually disrupted a meeting criminally. But hey, in the context of Garen, now because you charged him, you have to charge Ray. It's funny because if you'd have let Garen off of those charges, you could have said there's no precedence for this, but you didn't. And so now there's a precedence because you disrupted that meeting. And I'd sent you that ADA letter long before this, and you yelled at me. I'm not your bitch. I'm a constituent. I live in this city. My taxes pay your salary. And at the time that you did that, I was engaged in a massive multi-million-dollar lawsuit against you personally. I'm just trying to figure out whose house is nicer, like Bradley's or Carry-On's. I mean, like, if you had your choice, guys, because I've never been there, I'm thinking I might do a poll. Like, if you had your choice between Bradley or Carry-On's house, which one would you want to live in? I'm just curious. These people have screwed up. I don't care what they say. You know, I don't care if they don't like me. I don't care if any of you don't like Tom Williams. Hey, you know what, dude? I don't really care. You come at me consistently all the time, and you don't realize that you're just a laughing stock. I mean, Fogel went after you a ton. He got all your information. I've got it all. Got pictures of you with county employees. I don't care if you like it or not. But you guys want to play these games, and now the chickens are coming home to roost, folks. The information's out there. You know, I love the fact that, you know, miraculously, though, the only part that remained is the in their minutes is the single line of my response, which on paper reads as if I was randomly just disrupting the meeting entirely by myself. It's like I was just sitting there and I just started saying those things. I said, you work for me, Carry-On. But, you know, Ray wasn't saying anything. It was just, right? That's not a mistake, folks. That's narrative engineering. Then I go down to the clerk's office on body camera, on video, which I'm not going to bother playing today. But I should have geared that one up, but I have another one geared up for you guys for of Amber speaking at the meeting that we're going to play a little bit later. So just so you know, like, if you guys want to check it out, I've got Amber Bronish coming on in mid podcast, not on the podcast because we're still working on that aspect. I want to set up so I can bring other people on, but I need to get my other computer set up. But I have a copy of the video that day we're going to be playing. But when the clerk refuses publicly to correct the minutes after being shown that the audio and the video, that becomes a deliberate falsification of a public record, folks. That's a crime. I've tried to tell Brianna that. I've tried to warn all of these people to stop doing these things, and they just keep doing them because they're empowered by egos in the department with 4 doctorates that apparently couldn't pull their doctorates out of their asses long enough to actually look at state law and realize that they violated state law exactly as if the Columbus law did. And they're just going to be making my attorney money. So again, your tax dollars at work. Don't blame me. I warned them. I gave them everything. And then and then on this deliberate falsification of a public record, I warned her on that, and I went and filed. So because I'm disabled, and I know Elaine didn't know it. People don't know it because they don't show it. Not all disabilities are visible. You know, everybody online, all of you people call me mentally disabled all the time. So yeah, based on that alone, you're just picking on somebody that you think is mentally disabled or deficient. Kind of funny that I'm the only one out here backing up what I say I'm going to do, right? I tell you I'm going to sue you, I sue you. I say I'm going to go file something, I go file something. Imagine that. A man that keeps his fucking word, right? I'm actually glad I didn't win that election. This was the plan all along, folks. I just needed to get my name out there, and I wanted to run for office. I love the Constitution. I wanted to be part of that process, and I did. And I had someone like Jaslyn with me and Kenny with me. I got to meet a lot of great people. I got to see the concerns of Lorraine. I got to go around and meet people and see things. And now I understand so much more. But hey, because I'm disabled, those minutes will shape. They're false, and they'll shape how officers treat me, how officials view me, and how disciplinary actions are justified, right? That becomes an ADA issue. A fact is that the fact is the city can't just erase, you know, things simply because it doesn't find them convenient. You can't, right? So now we arrive at the Nancy Smith case, folks, and that's going to be the emotional core of tonight's episode. A case where no physical evidence, no forensic evidence, no corroborating witnesses, no confession, just fear, politics, and a moral panic that swept through the country in the 1980s and the 90s. All right. I'm going to take a quick pause right there. This isn't like going to be a long one. I'm just going to say something real quick here. In our process of doing these podcasts, these videos, couple people helped us out. I would like to throw a special thank you out there to the civil rights lawyer, John Bryant. You can find his videos online. He posts a lot of First Amendment content and legal content. He's out of West Virginia. He reshared the videos that we shared on Rivera, and I reached out to him recently and asked him if he'd give us credit on the story, and he absolutely said he would. So he did, and so this is us giving our props out. Also, don't forget about the BP Cast. They're another First Amendment auditing channel. They're the one, the official BP Cast, but the BP Cast, they put their information out for us, and they went ahead and shared some of our stories too. So, and then last but not least, don't forget, if you go to my website, I did put together a little kit, and if you Sunlight's a headache for somebody, it's got all the forms you need to request public records, all that good stuff. You can find that on my website, www.aaronnapunplugged.com. In the meantime, we're going to get back to this. So I'm going to warn all of you people that maybe might get a little emotional here. Like, I'm going to kind of go into this one a little bit. And so just, get your tissues ready, because you're going to see the video. A woman wrongfully imprisoned for crimes that professionals are now saying never happened. An investigation that suppressed exculpatory evidence. A lead detective removed after expressing doubts. A conviction overturned. A plea deal forced by fear of a retrial. An exoneration that finally came in 2022, right? And then unbelievably, a new prosecutor is now trying to undo that exoneration 3 years later. That's not justice, folks. That's institutional obsession with never admitting error. I'm going to say this, before I get into this part. I had my issues, again, with JD and Rich Resendez and James Burge, and all those issues revolved around one incident at City Hall. At the county building that led to me trying to get those videos. But all of that came from the McCann incident and their refusal to even investigate or look into it. I get it. I really understand more now. What I was asking for was virtually impossible. I was never going to get a handshake. I was never going to get an apology. I was never going to get, what I needed for closure. This was the inevitable outcome. Me becoming this guy. Me meeting these people. I truly am starting to believe I'm being guided by something, whether that's religious, whether that's just my own self, but I find myself in the position to help people. And when someone asks me for help and is honest, I'm honest too. Just like when that same person told me, hey, you should look into this person, or talk about this person, look into it. I trust their judgment. If you trust them, why wouldn't you trust their judgment? So yes, I do get that everyone has ulterior motives, and I weigh that with my therapy brain. But that's how we ended up, with, hey, Aiden Fogel said, I'm sorry. I said, okay, we're done. Like on that, like he made some disparaging comments about me. That's all I really cared about him. And again, that just helps him, right? It just gets that off the board. And same thing, I get that from Mr. Moreau, and it'll be done there too. I get the games that people play now more so than ever. I get how the hit at Madhouse happened. I get how the extended one that they talk about that they're trying to say happened at some other bar that I don't even, I was driven there by somebody else as we were going to pick up somebody who needed to leave. And nobody's sharing the video of that one because I was, they tried to attack me there too. I'm seeing a pattern. My back turned and people trying to attack me. They need something to come after me with, right? And I'm human. So they're going to find those things. But in the grand scheme, I went through all of that. I feel like that beat down, that political, thing, everything to get where I'm at today. And as I move along in this journey, this is where I met Amber professionally, because she reached out wanting, what any child would want for a mother who's lived inside the shadow of a wrongful conviction for over 30 years. A little bit of fucking peace, a little bit of finality, a little bit of dignity. And in the end, to the fear that every knock at the door is the government coming back for round fucking 2. I see it in her. It breaks my fucking heart. But now, I looked at So I looked at this situation through a lens of, I don't know any of these people. I knew nothing about Nancy Smith. I knew nothing about the case. I knew nothing about any of the players. I still don't know a lot about a lot of the players. I understand now vaguely how they attach. And it kind of goes to back when I started to run and I met my treasurer, and she really, Linda was just like, really, you don't know any of these people. You want me to believe you know none of these people. These people are players. And I'm like, I'm not. I came here from Cali via Idaho, came here for a woman, got a degree at OSU, tried to practice my trade, and I got shit on by a chief of police. And again, as one of my friends said, hey, imagine a world where the mayor grabs Chief McCann by the ear and drags his stupid ass down the stairs. Or I guess he wouldn't be down the stairs. He'd be downstairs already, because I think the police station is down there, unless they have a second floor. I mean, I guess maybe they have a second floor in the police station too. But brought him downstairs and just had him shake my hand and say sorry. And then I go back to doing social work. I go back to doing what I love, which is being a therapist and helping people. Instead, we have Erin that does this, right? Because I see this. And so when she came to me, I started looking up her case, and I started to realize the players, and I realized, okay, let's start connecting these dots. Well, we have, people I've supported, and Tony Sillo and Jack Hall asking me questions about, say, J.D. Tomlinson. And I'm looking at J.D. Tomlinson through the lens of Erin, who got removed from the Justice Center like a little bitch by an old-ass East Cleveland deputy who was having a panic attack, and I had to, therapy him all the way down the elevator. The guy took me to the basement, made a joke about this is where we take the prisoners, basically kidnapping, whatever. Brings me back upstairs. I try to make my complaint, and that's where that whole video complaint came from. Then I'm not really getting any justice from them, so Burge sends them a letter, says we're conflicted because of this, something that happened after the event, and we can't give you any justice, so we want Riley, the law department, to do it. Well, of course, they didn't do it. So that's why I was mad at them. That in a nutshell. And I was mad at Rich Resendez because he was kind of a bitch in the fact that he messaged me from his wife's Facebook. So I don't have that Facebook anymore, but when I was initially coming after Rich, long before Jack Hall, long before anything else, he messaged me from the fair 3 years ago. I thought it was his wife. I said, I'm sorry, ma'am. I am not looking to engage with the wife of my government employee or my duly elected representatives or people running for office or anything of the sort. And he said, no, it's me. This is Rich. I'm just reaching out on my wife's phone. And I just felt that was really disrespectful and inappropriate. So I didn't like him either. So now he's running for sheriff. In my mind, he's buddies with Tomlinson. Well, I don't really know their connection. So I just said no to Tomlinson, no to Rich. I ended up registering as a Democrat in that stupid election to vote for Dave Thomas or whatever, the guy from Wendy's. So again, I'm stumbling a little bit here into this scenario, but I'm starting to see the connections now. I'm starting to ask myself the questions. Okay, why did most of JD's staff stay on with Sillo when Sillo took over? What most of his staff you would think would leave? Why did Sillo keep most of the staff? Why are the denials the exact same from this prosecutor's office as they were from others and the staff? How much did JD know? How much were they talking to JD? How much was JD being played by plants in his own office? I mean, nobody believes that Petticourt is not a plant, right? Petticourt is the commissioner's bitch. And then they put him over in Child and Family Services, and he's still giving illegal advice to the county. So you guys tell me, what's more likely, that the government is involved in some sort of giant conspiracy that I would normally have just gone, what are you talking about? Or is it more likely than not, ask yourself the question, how do the commissioners fit into all this? How do all these people fit in, right? Why on God's green earth would Sillo care about something that he can't undo? I've done stories on this. In my opinion, legally, there is zero way for him to undo what JD did. Say what you want about his reasoning. He did a fucking awesome thing for Amber's mom. And I've said that time and time again. You did this for them. Doesn't mean I don't have to like you about this, but it means I can also agree that this outweighs that. It's not always about me. It's not always about you. Sometimes it's about somebody fucking else. Right? But hey, not our government, right? Because this involves names, right? Names that I'm supposed to know, like Rosenbaum or some shit, or I don't even know all the names. Dennis Wills and all these people that are supposedly these high-ranking people. What they sound like is old people that need to go retire and be old people. Okay, like it's Gen X's time, baby. I don't need a bunch of edge of the life boomers trying to tell me what I need to do. I've done that my whole life. You guys fucked this shit show up so bad, it's unbelievable. The fact that you think you have any right to even be involved in any of this is beyond me. I mean, the fact that dude, let's not even, nobody wants to talk about the fact that Rosenbaum's own son shot him in the back and then shot himself in the head, lobotomizing himself. The ultimate cruelty to be stuck with the man that he obviously hated per that video or audio file online. And you guys just don't talk about it because he's so damn powerful. What? Unplug his wheelchair. I don't understand the problem. Like, that's some dick shit. You guys are all so scared of these people. I'm tired of these people. That's the problem. You've just sat back and taken it from them for so damn long. You're used to it. You guys are so damn traumatized that you think this is okay. Really, you do, don't you? I want to give the whole county a hug, okay? Like, here. Like, it's going to be okay, babies. Like, this is generational trauma, folks. In the therapy world, we call this generational trauma. I would say when you look at somebody who's gone through the problems that this county and these people have gone through, the struggles that they've gone through, the lack of justice that they've received from these people. And by these people, I mean, it's the same names. It's all across the board. And now all the same names are back involved again? Come on. Come on. There's only so much I can believe in. And one thing I don't believe in is coincidences. You guys are full of shit. But okay, that's just my opinion. But it's based off of everything I've read about you and everything I've seen online and all the documents that are getting released. And the fact that you guys struggle to hold on to the power and the documents just like this. But hey, that's okay. I digress. The government is coming back, right? Even now. Coming back after Amber's mom. And that's why I'm working with her to expose what happened and what continues to happen. Because the silence protects no one but the government. These stories, Sheffield Lake, Lorraine's weapons ordinance, the Minute scandal, the ADA violations, the retaliation, the wrongful convictions, they are not separate scandals. They are books in the same, chapters in the same book, right? And I can't understand how we don't see that. That we don't see that they're the same chapters. A book filled with how the government behaves when it believes it will never be held accountable. Tonight we're reading every chapter. The playbook, the reveals, how the pattern begins. I mean, when you start to understand the corruption and you don't start with the biggest crime scene, you start out with the smallest misuse of power, right? The first little moment where an official learns that they can break a rule, manipulate a process, twist the statute, or weaponize a position. Nobody stops them. Sheffield Lake, that's the perfect example, right? It didn't begin with lawsuits. It didn't begin with election challenges. It didn't begin with the police involvement or prosecutors stretching the limits of their authority. No. It quite simply began with something very simple. A mayor who doesn't like to be criticized. A mayor who believes that criticism is not just inconvenient, it's a violation, right? A threat. Grounds for government intervention. Because Rocky Raddick is scared of the little words. Because John Moreau, listen, all I got to say is this, Rocky. At least he just made an email and a website about you. Okay? Big deal. First Amendment protected speech, bro. And you're a lawyer. You should know these things. But, hey, you thought you had to send him this cease and desist letter. Oh, no, John Moreau hurt my little feelings. Dude. I'm just saying, you are like the epitome of sad. But, hey, it's where the entire arc of this modern Sheffield Lake politics reveals itself, right? Because the first target was not a criminal, not a political extremist, not someone engaging in threats or harassment. It was a guy running a political website, John Moreau. A website, people. A fucking website. A survey. And a question about a recall. Arguably, maybe a question that should be asked. Maybe he posted a few posts about criticizing leadership, right? All of these things are well within his right as a citizen, First Amendment protected speech, right? That was all it took for the machinery of the government to turn its sights on a private citizen. And the message is and was clear. In Sheffield Lake, power responds to criticism with force, not conversation. And once you understand that, once you get it, the rest of the story is going to make perfect sense, okay? That cease and desist letter, right? It should have never existed. The first major flashpoint of all that was the cease and desist letter that the council was sent to Council-elect John Moreau. The allegations were dramatic, like telecommunications fraud, identity fraud, unauthorized data collection, misrepresentation of an official site, a cybersecurity risk. All over a survey, folks. A stupid survey. I mean, really all over the question, should you recall the mayor? Yeah, in my opinion. I think you should, because in my opinion, he's holding office illegally. But hey, he didn't really explain that, as you see in my story, very well to the AG when he asked for his efficacy letters about whether he could do both jobs. I don't think he can. That a survey that's existed long before any of these accusations. It was a survey that had all disclaimers. It had a survey that residents had used voluntarily. It was a survey that was on a website clearly not affiliated with the city, right? That's like saying that certain websites, because they have the city of Lorraine seal on them, are affiliated with the city of Lorraine. But the minute Moreau posted a recall question, right? The minute he challenged that mayor's position publicly, the government had to step in, and he treated political speech like it was a criminal act. Case Western said, I don't think so. First Amendment Clinic reviewed it, the legal claims. Their conclusion was devastating in its simplicity. None of these statutes applied. None of these elements were met. No reasonable interpretation supported criminality. The claims chilled political speech. Seems to be a common theme in all of these situations, right? It wasn't about cybersecurity. It wasn't about protecting residents. It wasn't even about the law. What it really was about was control. A mayor used the full weight of a city's legal apparatus to intimidate someone who criticized him. That's how corruption roots itself, folks. A government official discovers that a legal threat works. And then they use it. And they keep using it until the public pushes back. So the public finally sees what the city has done, and the backlash is like almost immediate. Residents recognized what was happening, right? A website that they had been public for years, apparently, suddenly became a threat. The instant it threatened political comfort. Legal experts recognized it. Constitutional scholars recognized it. Journalists recognized it. I recognized it. Everyone recognized it conveniently except the administration that initiated the threat, right? The mayor eventually backed down. Mayor Raddiff, Rocky Raddiff, Prosecutor Raddiff, whatever hat you're wearing today. He claimed that it was a small branding adjustment on the website, somehow resolved all of the issues, despite the fact that the very survey he complained about never changed at all. So what changed? Not the law, not the facts, not the risk, not the website. Oh, yeah, that's right. What changed was public pressure. Once again, proving to everyone that's watching, when people push back, the government actually will retreat. When people stay silent, the government will advance. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that seems like bad tactics to me if you stay silent then. Because they're just going to advance on your rights and keep advancing on your rights. And every person that laughs at the post that we put out there, that talk about the truth, whether it's someone you like or not, is somebody that's part of that mechanism looking to suppress your rights because they gain benefit from that, right? They gain benefit from you not asserting your rights. They gain benefit from their gun laws and no one saying anything about it because they take away your rights. You know, you guys can complain how you want, but this is the way they do things. Shifting the targets. Now, this brings us to that point, and where I talk about that, it doesn't matter whether you like people or not. So they shifted targets. They went after Aiden Fogel. He had a 72% election win. For everybody talking about me and over here in Lorraine, they're like, oh, 75%, you lost by 75%. You got blown out. Okay. Well, if I got blown out, then Aiden blew out his opponent. So, but since silencing Moreau, it didn't work, right? So the next piece of the playbook activated. They go after the guy that the voters chose. They go after Fogel. He won his race in a landslide, 72%. In a democratic society, that should have been the end of the matter, right? The voters spoke. The Board of Elections certified the results. No challenge was filed with the law when it required it. But then Sheffield Lake reviewed it. They reviewed, I guess, an expired eligibility objection after the election, right? And this move is not common. You don't see this anywhere. It's not routine. It's not even endorsed by a precedent. It's more like kind of like why judges have to say out loud in their courtrooms and Overland, like, who's writing all these contempts? I paraphrase. Ohio courts have warned repeatedly that post-certification removals, like, they destabilize the democracy. I want you to hear that word. Post-certification removals destabilize democracy. That sounds like something, the CIA would do to a third world country. Not something going on in the United States of fucking America, right? But hey, what do I know about that? Everybody likes to make fun of me. I mean, it's not like, I got that little honorable discharge or serve my country or anything, right? No. But hey, the law expects challengers to act before the ballots are cast. Because once people vote, their decision has to fucking mean something. Unless you live in Sheffield Lake, I guess. In Sheffield Lake, they approached the entire issue with a tone that basically said, we don't like this outcome, so maybe the law doesn't apply this time. Let's be clear. Fogel's convictions are decades old, folks. To my knowledge, it's been discharged. And it's not one of the disqualifying offenses under Ohio law. And I know people are like, well, hey, it's, he had these other ones over here. I get it. But it's not a disqualifying offense under Ohio law. If you guys want to go out and fight that, go out and fight that with the government. We follow the rules no matter what. We follow the laws no matter what. We don't get to pick and choose which laws apply to which person, which candidate, and which person we like. I lost, fair and square. Angel won, fair and square. I'm not going to go deal and expect someone to challenge that on my behalf. This is bullshit. It wasn't a disqualifying offense under the law, and the Board of Elections had reviewed it, and the statutory challenge window had already closed. Nothing changed except that Fogel won. That's not ethics, it's not the law, and it's not governance. That's political retaliation disguised as legal interpretation, folks. You call it whatever you want. I didn't necessarily like the guy, but that doesn't mean I want to see my system overturned. But I, served my country to serve and protect. That I want to just let people make up their own damn rules and whatever. So if Sheffield Lake wants to talk about qualifications, then we got to talk about the Ohio Ethics Commission, right? Because long before the city cared about Fogel's eligibility, long before it cared about the integrity of statute, the Ethics Commission had issued warnings to then councilman and later mayor, Mr. Rocky Radiff. I reported extensively on this, right? Warnings about conflicts of interest. It's in my story. Overlapping roles. Yeesh. Duties that could not ethically coexist. Ew. Representation issues between political subdivisions. Oh, here's a good one. The risk of influencing city decisions while holding outside positions, right? That one's great. These aren't rumors, right? They're not allegations. These are formal warnings. I have them in paper that came from the AGs. right? He asked, they answered. And I've uncovered more problematic issues with that when you start looking at like Baez being a councilman in Lorain, and you start looking at all these other aspects of the Lorain sewer contracts being tied to that. You can't separate the two people. And again, the biggest one of them all, he is literally a prosecutor in Sheffield, in Lorain's municipal court. And Lorain's municipal court has an agreement to cover all of Sheffield Lake. You can't be a prosecutor in Sheffield Lake and be a mayor. A mayor in Sheffield Lake can be a prosecutor in Lorain when that court serves your community. So what did they do? Nothing. Not a damn thing, right? Of course not. They didn't restructure anything. They didn't build any firewalls. They didn't try to, separate duties. They didn't even address the concerns. Instead, they basically promoted him. They gave him a new job. They made him the mayor. And later, that same mayor carrying unresolved ethics conflicts becomes a prosecutor in Lorain Municipal Court. Well, actually, he was already a prosecutor. That's why he had to ask all these questions, why it's on file at the AG. That's that same court, right, that we talked about earlier, the one plagued by that parking ticket scandal, a court that handles Sheffield Lake's own cases. I wonder how many of those parking tickets were Sheffield Lake residents. You drive to Lorain, you get a parking ticket in Lorain that's suddenly, a misdemeanor, and now you're in front of your mayor. So when Sheffield Lake tries to wrap itself in this flag of statutory purity, the Jonas Brothers in a purity ring, by attacking Fogel, the hypocrisy is kind of fucking binding and blinding at that. It's blinding you because you ignored the ethics warnings for years that I brought up. You ignored deadlines for months. You ignored constitutional principles when it was convenient to you, right? Suddenly the law matters. Yeah, only when it benefits you politically. That's the playbook, folks. I wrote about it, the Graves Network and the culture that it created, right? A city isn't corrupt because one person's corrupt. A city becomes corrupt when a network forms, right? A network of influence, of protection, of insiders who know how to move information quietly out of public sight. That's where this, the name David Graves come in. He's not it's not as formal as a villain. He's not an elected official with direct wrongdoing ever proven, right? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking questions here. But as a part of a culture, a long-standing presence in the administrative environment where informal influences shaped decision-making, internal documents, patterns of communication, the administrative behavior that form an entire era demonstrate a city in Sheffield Lake where transparency has been optional. Accountability has been was just performative, right? We're over here doing the right thing. Look at us. Well, we're slipping money out of your pockets. Insider loyalty matters more than public duty, right? Decisions that are made through back channels, dog trucks being exchanged between police departments, hiding the ex-mayor's body cam footage of issues with city and employees, county prosecutors protecting Mayor Bring. We've got questions. I've got questions. Haven't gotten answers to. Decisions that are often made through back channels. Criticism triggered by retaliation. You can't understand Sheffield Lake, though, in 2025 unless you understand Sheffield Lake from 2012, 2014, 2018, and 2020. Because the culture's never changed, only the names. Then, and when a culture is built on suppressing dissent, retaliation, and retaliating against critics, ignoring warnings, and bending deadlines, you get exactly the series of abuses we're seeing right now. False criminal claims, lies about websites, challenges filed too late, elections undermined, deadlines ignored, ethics warnings shoved off, power taken as birthright, not as a responsibility. And, I don't know, let's not even get into those stupid high-rises that they're arguing about over there. But why this matters to the rest of the episode is that Sheffield Lake isn't the biggest scandal. It's not the oldest scandal. It's not even the most damaging scandal. But it's the clearest example of the playbook, right? You can open this up. The playbook that will show up later in just about every aspect of our government. Lorain's illegal weapons ordinance. The falsified minutes that targeted a disabled residents. ADA violations, retaliation. Prosecutors trying to undo a wrongful exoneration in Amber Smith's mom. That one. Prosecutors, our county prosecutors, Tony Sillo, trying to just heap more pain onto a woman and her daughter, and prosecutors trying to undo a wrongful exoneration. Hey, when are you going to give me that call back, Tony, that you told me you're going to give me 2 weeks ago about the McCann case? Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that was going to be the answer. He says, oh, Aaron, like I'll get back to you by Friday or next week because, I'll make sure that I get back to you and let you know what's going to happen with that and where the progress is with that investigation. And I was like, all right, I believe you, bro. Like you do you if you want to do that. But in the grand scheme of things, what he really meant to say was
a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit.
So I don't know, whatever, all I know is that they've done record manipulation. They've done narrative distortion. The government has tried to comfort with lying to the public. Sheffield Lake's the diagram, the transparency layer that allows you to see how all the other stories fit on top of it. Because if a city is willing to just misuse legal threats to silence a critic, a city is willing to challenge an election after the votes are counted. If a city ignores ethics warnings when it benefits insiders, then in the end, what else are they going to do? What won't they do? What won't they do? So let's kind of shift from Sheffield Lake here to a small city with a big retaliation problem, right? To Lorain, a city that has decided it can out-legislate the Ohio Revised Code. This part of the story starts quietly on paper, right? In committee with a document titled Ordinance 160-25, which was a total rewrite of Chapter 549, the weapons section of the Lorain City Code. At first glance, you might think that, well, maybe they've just updated some definitions. Maybe they clarified something, right? Maybe they modernized it, right? Okay, cool. Like I get it. I went down and listened. I did. I went to the meetings. Prosecutor was there. County prosecutor, sheriff, everyone was there. No, that's not what they did. Okay, this wasn't modernizing. This wasn't keeping weapons out of the hands of kids like they said. It wasn't anything they claimed it was going to be. It wasn't modernization. It was reinvention, and not the kind the law allows, right? The kind that the sneaky Democrat lawyers like Riley like to make up behind closed doors. And mind you, it was made up. We're going to win this lawsuit. I definitively can tell you that because the ordinance didn't tweak the code. It rewrote it. You can't do that in Ohio. You want to do that? Go to California. That's what they do in California. It rewrote the code. It expanded penalties, created new offenses, reclassified conduct, inserted restrictions, and went places municipal governments have zero authority to go. That's why I left California. You can say what you want about, me not being a Republican, but my feelings on the Second Amendment are the most Republican thing about me. Every citizen has a right to bear arms, right? That's so succinctly defined in the Second Amendment. It's more clear than anything else. It's more clear than corruption in Lorain. So you start shitting around with that, and it's going to get me a little pissy. You notice I didn't wait any time at all, and the reason why I didn't waste was because I knew Buckeye Firearms would come in and go after him before I did if I didn't do it. So I made sure to get it. And with Buckeye Firearms in Columbus, it was John Doe's. You notice it's not John Doe's here. We have 3 individuals that want our names associated with this. We want people to know that we are proud Second Amendment supporters, and what you did was BS. And I warned you and I told you, and the important part of this is it directly violates RC 9.68. That's the state's firearms preemption statute. They made this statute to not be subtle. They made it so it doesn't dance around the issue, right? It doesn't kind of sort of imply something. It doesn't beat around the bush. It doesn't tell you anything other than the friggin' facts. It says, and I quote, only the state of Ohio may regulate firearms, their components, their ammunition, and the manner in which they are carried, transported, owned, stored, or used, end quote. That's it. It's over. That's it. End of story. Period. Case closed. A circus monkey could have figured that out. Before doctorates couldn't. The Ohio Supreme Court has upheld it twice. And they just looked at case law. Like the law requires. Municipalities cannot override it. Home rules don't reach it. Local emotions don't override state law. I get it. You guys are all sad, but you don't get to do this. You just don't. And it's horse shit anyway, because the Lorain City Council passed it 160-25 anyway, right? You guys all signed it. You all checked off on it. Even though I know some of you told everybody that you knew it was going to be challenged, you still voted yes unanimously. You did it boldly. You did it confidently. You did it after I warned you. You were basically just like, hey, fuck you, Aaron. You don't know shit. Okay? Aaron understands that. I get the reluctance to believe me. It sucks. But this is where I entered the chapter. And this was the 4 doctrines that night. And they were, I was ignored because they wanted to listen to those doctrines, right? Before the lawsuit existed, before any paperwork was filed, before any motions were drafted, I tried to prevent this whole mess. Not online, not through rumors, not through Facebook, not behind the scenes. I showed the fuck up. Printed handouts in hand, 13 of them. I cited the Ohio Revised Code. I cited RC 9.68. I cited the Supreme Court cases upholding it. I marked the unconstitutional sections. I offered corrected language. I warned them about injunctions. I warned them about the cost. I warned them about the liability. I stood at the podium respectfully and laid out the exact reasons this ordinance could not be passed. Go look it up. I spoke slowly, clearly, directly, straight to them, and they ignored me. No, let me rephrase that to be a little more accurate. They didn't just ignore me, they dismissed me. Council staff responded with the now infamous line between, the 4 doctorates in our office, we have the smartest department in our city. Something to that effect, right? That sentence tells you everything you need to know about the culture inside Lorain City Hall. The law didn't matter. The statute didn't matter. The Supreme Court precedent didn't matter. Citizen testimony didn't matter. Disability status didn't matter. Facts, those things, they definitely didn't matter. Arrogance, though, it mattered. Ego mattered. Status mattered. Hierarchy mattered. And ego mattered more than legality and more than legal reality. They weren't passing a law. They were flexing their ass off. They were flexing to see, and you know why. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. It's very sad. I'm very sorry that he lost his life in the line of duty. But this is a knee-jerk reaction. I said it from the beginning. I said it in the end. We don't give up rights, essential core rights to feel safe. Because that law that they passed won't stop what happened. For the record, most of it's about driving in cars and how you carry weapons. This guy wasn't even in a car. They talked about it being to stop kids from getting guns, but there's not a single piece in there that really does anything to change that. My 14-year-old knows that you can't get guns when you're her age. Legally, it's illegal. So what? You increased a few penalties on giving a kid a gun? I mean, that should be illegal. But, I mean, you're not doing anything beyond flexing. And that's how government friggin' breaks. After the vote, though, after the council approved the law that they had no right to approve, they did their waiver of the 3 reading rule like they always do, and they voted, and they all voted to approve that. I did something that a lot of people don't even bother doing. I gave the mayor a chance to fix it, right? I emailed him directly. I explained the legal issues. I explained the preemption statute. I explained how vetoing the ordinance would prevent litigation and save taxpayer money. And his response, he basically said, I can't speak to you. He was citing the unrelated lawsuit involving Chief McCann and the unlawful release of confidential information and the way he went after my tort interference on my contract and the way he did all that. So he said he couldn't discuss this ordinance case with me because of that pending case. Okay. Well, unfortunately for him, that's not how mayors work. That's not how veto powers work. And that's not how separation of issues works. It was nothing more than an excuse, a dodge, a political shield. It was a refusal to engage with the law because engaging with the law would actually expose that the ordinance was indefensible. So the mayor decided the silence was easier than governance, right? And so when a mayor replaces silence with duty, lawsuits replace the dialogue. I mean, but then again, it's not like Bradley really thinks he works for us, right? Like, he doesn't think we matter. I'm in a public area, bro.
Pretty soon what he's going to do is he's going to say that he can't continue with the meeting because you won't exit.
And that's not my problem. You work for me.
I don't work for you.
You do work for me. I pay taxes. You work for the city of Lorraine. No, there's no agree to disagree, Mayor. Mayor, there's no agree to disagree.
And what they're going to do is they'll just close me.
A bullshit. 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 A bullshit.
Stupid. So hey man, like, and why this ordinance is illegal, this is factually, it's not opinion. Like, this is the part of the episode where I'm gonna, like, kind of bring you back down a little bit and spell it out for the people in the back, because I know there's a lot of dense ass people out there, according to what I see online, that just don't want to accept the fact that the city of Lorraine's legal department, which apparently needs this refresher, these are the factual violations. Cities cannot create first-degree misdemeanors for conduct the state classifies differently. 160-25 did exactly that. Cities cannot redefine dangerous ordinance. 160-25 attempted to do so. Cities cannot regulate firearms or ammunition. 160-25 inserted restrictions the state explicitly prohibits. And then the big mother of them all, RC 9.68 preempts all municipal firearm legislation. Preempts all municipal firearm legislation. RC 9.68, for the ones in the back that can't hear it, 9.68 preempts all municipal firearm legislation. Lorraine ignored that, and those four big brain, big doctorated people in the law department apparently ignored it. Supreme Court decisions of the city of Cleveland versus state, 2010, and the subsequent rulings have upheld that statute. Lorraine ignored that one too. There's no gray area. It's not like it's unsettled doctrine. There's no clever legal workaround. This was illegal from the moment someone typed it on a city computer, and they friggin' knew it because I told them. So, when the mayor refused to act, that's when the council refused to listen. When the ordinance became law, there was only one step left. We filed case number 25CV219080. Signed to Judge Remke, 3 plaintiffs, each impacted in different ways. We asked for declaratory judgment, permanent injunction, attorney fees, and a prohibition on enforcing the unconstitutional sections. The lawsuit was not symbolic. It was not political. It was not emotional. It was legal. And it's the exact situation the Ohio legislature anticipated when it wrote RC 9.68. This is the exact scenario that the Supreme Court contemplated when it upheld the statute. This is the exact behavior the Constitution is designed to stop. Government exceeded its authority, and we pushed back. Just like they did in Columbus. Just like they did in Dayton. Just like they did in, multiple municipalities across Ohio. That is not anger. That is citizenship, folks. Some of you need to understand. I like to quote Starship Troopers. What is it? Citizen service garners citizenship. Maybe some of you should understand that. That's why this matters to every resident. The lawsuit in this lawsuit is the type of case that tests whether a city is governed by law or a personality. If we win, and legally the path is clear, Lorraine will be reminded that its authority has limits, and that those limits are enforceable. If we win, and when we win, every resident in Lorraine will know the truth, that city council knowingly passed an illegal law, after being given the evidence, after being shown the statutes, and after being warned of the consequences. If we win, Lorraine will no longer be able to hide behind the myth of we didn't know or we thought we could. Sound familiar? Like the traffic law violations? That's a class action. I don't even want to open that can of worms up, but I'm thinking we should just start a website, have everybody go there, and just have lawyers ready. Because they knew it, they ignored it, they passed it anyway. They didn't care. This victory is going to ripple beyond weapons ordinances. It will undermine the internal myth that the local Lorraine officials can rewrite reality. It'll bring us directly to the next section, right? Rewriting laws in Lorraine and the night it started. Because, some stories start in different places. But I'm going to take a quick break here, grab a quick drink, and play you a little quick word from our sponsors before I get back to the next section. But we're going to get into the next chapter, which is the night it all started. Thank you guys for staying tuned here, and I will be right
Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask.
Here at Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, we like to thank our sponsors. We have a few unofficial sponsors tonight, and they are definitely not paid sponsorships. I want to throw out there a big thank you to Joseph Jones and Eric Jones of the Lorraine Daily and the Vermilion Daily. They have a local news page. You should check them out. They do plenty of great work, broadcasting all the news that is the news that you want to have in Lorain and Lorain County. So check them out. Also, please, if you need any legal services, feel free to reach out to Robert Gargas. You can find him listed online. He's a fine attorney and comes highly recommended by yours truly. And last but not least, I want to mention DNC Radio. Please make sure you check out one of the up-and-coming internet hip-hop stations and all of their shows. They put on a lot of shows. You have the Never Outdone show. You also have the Eric Bowen show, Speak Up, Speak Out. So please make sure you guys check them out as well if you're looking for your latest and up-to-date hip-hop artistry. Thank you for tuning in. This has been a non-paid sponsorship brought to you by Unplugged with Aaron Knapp.
Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask.
Woo, this one's getting a little long, ain't it? All right, folks, we're back for chapter 5. Thanks for staying tuned for the sponsors there. I mean, I know they're not like real sponsors technically, but I do like these folks. I enjoy reading the Lorraine Daily stories. Speaking of which, Karen, I know you're in here. We need to send a picture of you and me, preferably maybe one we can get of us at council or something that we can send to them. But anyway, so the night it all started. Some stories begin with a crime and some with a resignation, some with a whistleblower, and this one begins with a whisper. You know, I made a quiet comment to Garen Petty, the kind of remark that anyone might make at a long city council meeting, and I wasn't addressing the floor. It wasn't speaking out of turn. It wasn't loud. It was just a private comment between two people sitting in the front row. And across the room, the safety service director, Ray Carrion, snapped his head up, and then it happened. He just started yelling. You know, did you say something? Did you say something? He said it 3 times. Full volume, aggressive, interrupting the meeting. And his voice carried across the chamber, stopping the flow of the room. Councilman Spinowski, Mary Spinowski, was immediately trying to intervene. You can hear her on the audio repeating, Ray.
So it's one of those areas that we'll revisit here as we move along.
Trying to stop it.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion.
Say something? Then why are we?
How does he escalate?
Then why are we? You want to get an attitude? You work for me, Carrion. Yeah, kidding. Do it.
Mr. Knapp.
Ray. Yeah, Mr. Knapp. Always Mr. Knapp. All of it's on the audio. All of it's on the body camera recordings. And yet none of it's in the version that the city chose to preserve in its official records. So when the minutes and the records were released, they told a different story. It was sanitized, curated, and a false narrative. They removed every word Ray shouted. They removed every attempt of Mary to calm him. They removed every single piece of context. But you know what they didn't remove? My response. The written minutes kept part where I responded being yelled at across the room, which they had no reason to do. Not the provocation, not the aggression, not the disruption, not the sequence of events. Just my response. Isolated, stripped of context, and crafted to look like I initiated the disruption. That's not an accident, folks. That's not a clerical error. That's narrative engineering. And when the government chooses that part of a confrontation to preserve and what part they erase, they're not documenting history. They're rewriting it, folks. And you can say what you want about it, but that's exactly what they did. The official minutes did not reflect what actually happened. They reflected what someone wanted the public to believe happened. And that is the moment where the story stops being clerical and starts being legal. There are moments that define corruption, moments that reveal exactly what happened. Institution thinks of the people and it's supposed to serve. One of those moments happened when I asked politely, formally, with evidence for the minutes to be corrected. Not once, but twice. I provided the audio. I provided the timestamps. I cited the Open Meetings Act. I cited the duty to maintain accurate public records. And at the next council meeting, the clerk of council was asked publicly to correct what was proven wrong. She did it. Initially, they changed some of the language. They took out all the stuff that happened during the intermission, which they weren't supposed to put in anyway. I appreciate that. But when I came down to her office, she straight on video refused. She refused on camera, and she did it and told me, knowing that the audio existed, knowing that her version contradicted the recording, and knowing that the law required accuracy, she basically just said, we wrote it as we heard it. That refusal is what changed everything, because once a government official starts is shown the truth and chooses not to correct the record, the law no longer sees it as a mistake. The law sees it as intentional. Now, this part of the story most people miss, the ADA component. Under federal law, I'm recognized as a disabled individual. I know people don't like to admit that, but here's the truth: the governments don't like to acknowledge. When a city creates an official record that falsely portrays a disabled resident as disruptive, aggressive, or problematic, it affects how departments treat that resident moving forward. It shapes bias. It shapes officer assumptions. It shapes administrative decisions. It shapes credibility assessments, and it shapes future interactions. The written record becomes the lens. The false record becomes a weapon. And when the city refused to correct the minutes, a refusal made in public after being provided the proof, that's when this stopped being a paperwork issue and started becoming a Title II ADA problem. And I've spoken with an ADA representative already who's told me, yes, the city of Lorain violated my rights under the ADA. Governments must avoid discriminatory barriers. And Jay Shore is an ADA rep I've consulted with, and he clearly told me that this was a violation. Governments must take steps to prevent harmful misrepresentations. They must correct records that impact how disabled individuals are treated. And knowingly putting a false narrative, that's a barrier. A false disruption claim is a barrier. A refusal to fix the record after proof is presented, that's a barrier. And barriers are violations. So once the clerk refused to correct the minutes, I issued a litigation hold. I announced that at the next meeting. We're going to hear that later when I play another video, but not a threat, not as a stunt, not as a political move, but because the law requires it. Once the public record is disputed and the custodian refuses correction, every draft, every email, every metadata log, every edit history, every audio backup, every internal message related to that record must be preserved. The litigation hold is not optional, it's mandatory. So I filed one. Because now the question isn't just why did the minutes get wrong or written wrong. Now the questions are, who decided to exclude the part showing Carry On was the one that disrupted the meeting? Who decided my response should remain while his provocation should be erased? Were the drafts altered? Were the instructions given? Where does what does the metadata show? Who participated in shaping the narrative? Was it political? Was this retaliatory? Was this discriminatory? And the biggest question of all, why was the truth on the audio not allowed to appear on the page? These answers exist, but only if the city preserves the evidence, which is why the litigation hold was necessary, which is why the issue is not going away. It's why Lorraine's attempt to rewrite reality is going to fail. And this matters because the minutes scandal is not isolated. It's not random. It's not a mistake. It's part of the pattern that I've been documenting here, right? This is why I said it's going to be a long one, folks. I know people are going to come and go. They're going to cut in and out of this one. But Sheffield Lake is rewriting the laws that, when votes don't go their way. Lorraine's rewriting the weapons code to override state laws. Officials are rewriting public narratives. Prosecutors rewriting history in the Nancy Smith case. The written record is the foundation of democracy. When that foundation cracks, everything above it collapses. This episode doesn't work without that chapter. Because that chapter is where the corruption begins and becomes undeniable. When governments can't win honestly, they alter the record. When governments can't justify their actions, they erase the context. When governments cannot silence their critics, they rewrite what the critic did. They make him criminal. They make him the bottom of the barrel. That's the chapter, like the bridge. The bridge between Sheffield Lake's retaliation, Lorraine's unlawful ordinance, the emotional core of the episode. And this is the bridge, right? The story of a woman, Nancy Smith, who spent 15 years in prison because official records were falsified, manipulated, suppressed, or created through pressure. And this is the moment where my narrative meets Amber's. This is where the record lies, where a life can be destroyed. It shows it. How, when a record lies, it destroys. So our next section, I'm going to pause right here for a second, is going to be the main part of, I'm going to talk about the Nancy Smith story, and I'm going to include some video narrative here. So I just want to give everybody a chance to take a breather. And just remember, this is a person's story. This isn't some, conspiracy theory. This is a woman's story. This is a daughter's life, or a life that was stolen. I see a childhood stolen. And, this is the story. So, there's stories you cover because you're a journalist. And then there's the ones you cover because, they just won't leave you alone. And then that's kind of, the Nancy Smith case kind of started as research, right? Just a wrongful conviction, decades old, familiar Ohio tragedy, that and a long list of institutional failures, right? I saw it in my own hometown in Bakersfield. This went all across the country. But the moment I met Amber, Nancy's daughter, it stopped being a historical case to me. It actually became something else entirely. Her clarity, that's my daughter's name. Whenever I say that, she always comes to clarity. Her honesty, her pain, and her determination. I don't even know how to explain it. It's rare to meet someone who can speak about 30 years of trauma the way that Amber does, right? It's not theoretic. It's not theatrically in any way, shape, or form with her. It's not melodramatically. It's with a calm, grounded exhaustion of a person who has been carrying a boulder uphill since childhood. I mean, just on her back. The fact that she still smiles through it all. Our relationship has started out as professional. Our mission has become personal. But our stakes are generational. It's not over, folks. Because when someone is still trying to drag her back and her mother through the courtroom, because the corruption just didn't end in 1994, right? It's still alive today, just like all of the protagonists and antagonists are. For the most part, Amber's done being quiet, right? I want you to hear the words exactly as she said them, folks. Not filtered, not paraphrased, not explained. From her mouth, the way she said it. She started out and she's like, my name's Amber Bronish, I live in Lorain, and my mother's Nancy Smith. Already the room shifted. She was like, if you know that name, then you probably think you already know the story. And then she walked everyone through the timeline, right? The conviction, the coast testimony. She talks about all of the things that she went through, the prison sentence of 30 to 90 years. She described, to me, growing up in courtrooms, growing up in the false shadow of accusations proven false. She's talked about growing up with the fear instead of normal childhood memories. And she said the line, when I heard her, you might not know, it gutted the room though. You might not know what it's like to wake up every morning and see fear on your mother's face 30 years later. It's not history, it's her life, folks. This is what she went through. And I'm honored to have, even for her to even share this with me. Who wouldn't want to help her? This crosses boundaries. This should cross everyone's boundary. This should make everyone's heart hurt, because as a community, these people have been wronged, and we need to unwrong them. Other people bring Amber on. They talk about the case. JD and Burge went out and fixed the thing. But of course, we don't see those things. They don't put those things in the public eye, right? They don't show you what happens when a daughter shows up at a council meeting and wants to have her speech. And in the beginning, I'm going to pre-warn you, you're going to hear me speak, and it's in regards to the minutes issue, which is why I brought that up right before this. And then you're going to hear her speak. So I'll give you a little bit of a leeway. You hear me, and then you're going to hear her. But this is the video, and I'm going to pre-warn you when it gets to her, like, have your tissues ready, okay? Please, because I'm not responsible for any emotions that you receive from watching this video. But it's really hard to not feel the pain of this woman and what she's been drugged through. And I see it more clearly than, like, in her eyes and in her face, and in the fact that she still can smile, that she still has hope that the people of this city and county might finally step up and support her mother and maybe her the way that they should have back in '94. But let's do it.
This council.
We have a motion with a second. We're ready for a vote.
Yeah, please.
Ms. Henley? Thank you. The motion to request a 30-day extension carries unanimously.
Correspondence from the general public.
There is none.
Public comments.
We have 3 members of the public signed up to speak this evening. Our first speaker is Mike D'Angelo, and the topic is the Old Hills, South Lorraine.
I'm going to move a little faster.
You're back.
And the topic is minutes.
Good evening, Aaron Knapp, 6th Ward. So, to the President Pro Tem Demakia and members of council, I want to address the October 20th minutes and explain why this is not a personal issue. It's not political. It's a legal matter involving accuracy, transparency, and the rights of a disabled resident under federal law. The audio from that night is clear. It captures my quiet comment to a person seated next to me. It captures the safety service director repeatedly yelling across the room. It captures Councilmember Springowski trying to stop the escalation, which I appreciate very much. Thank you. And none of that appears in the minutes. Only my replies appear. That creates a version of the events that's incomplete and misleading. And anyone who listens to the audio can hear the difference. I've asked twice now that the minutes be corrected. I provided the recordings. When the clerk of council was given an opportunity to correct the omissions, she's refused on video. At that point, it ceased being a simple clerical oversight. Ohio law requires the minutes be accurate. The Public Records Act prohibits creating a record that fails to include key facts that alter the meaning. Once the clerk refused to fix the minutes, the law required me to take the next steps. Because the official record does not match the actual recording, and because the city has refused to correct it, I issued a formal litigation hold. This requires the city preserve all versions of the minutes, all drafts, all emails about all edits, all audio backups, and the video that shows the refusal of the correct record. This is the standard legal step when a government record is in dispute and protects both sides, ensuring that nothing is changed or destroyed. I need the council to understand also that this situation affects me as a person with disabilities. When a meeting narrative is altered in a way that casts me as the source of the disruption, when the actual recordings prove otherwise, this affects how I am treated by this government. It implies and impacts how officers respond to me, how my concerns are dismissed. Under Title II of the ADA, a government cannot create or maintain an inaccurate record that harms the participation or credibility of a disabled resident. That is why this issue matters. I'm not here to argue with anyone. I'm here because the record of the government must reflect the truth. The audio shows what happened. The minutes should match the audio. So thank you, guys.
All right. So that was my portion. Now I'm going to remove myself from this because I want you to just see Amber's portion. I'm sorry, I'm holding the camera out to the right of me, but I want you to see this part. This is directly where she speaks. And again, I'm pre-warning you, it's a little emotional. So.
Hi, members of council. Thank you for allowing me to speak before you today. I stand here as a daughter who is exhausted from witnessing the innocent of my innocent mother, Nancy Smith, be pulled through a level of pain that fills me exhausted. After watching her wake up every single morning with fear in her eyes as she quietly wonders, what are they going to do to me now? For more than 30 years, my siblings and I have watched our mother survive a nightmare she never deserved. We grew up in courtrooms. We grew up in the shadow of accusations that ultimately proved false. And we grew up carrying an unbearable weight of something she did not do. And to the mayor that's not here today, I know it's recorded, I want to be completely clear. I didn't come here to attack you. I do not carry any anger toward you anymore. I forgave you a long time ago, and I truly believe in my heart that you feel the weight of what happened. That you hold regrets, and that you generally do not want to see my mother harmed again. But I am frustrated, I am tired, and I am standing here today begging you to help us. My mother is 68 years old now. She deserves peace. She deserves mornings where she can sip her Pepsi without wondering someone somewhere is preparing to come after her again. She deserves afternoons with her grandchildren where she can laugh freely instead of bearing behind her smile, pain behind her smile. And as her children, we are left asking, when do we finally get to enjoy our mother without pain in her face? The situation is not about politics. It's not about strategy. Strategy is about human life. A woman who was cleared, a woman who endured injustice after injustice, and a woman who is now threatened with another blow. Mayor, at the time you held influence over decisions that profoundly shaped the course of my mother's life, and by extension, the life I'm extending my life of our entire family. I do not believe you intended harm. I do believe compassion still exists in your heart, which is actually why I'm standing here today. I'm asking you to help us. Tell the public what is happening is wrong. Help us stand together and say this is unethical, this is unnecessary, this is causing real and lasting human suffering. You may not have legal authority over the prosecutor, but your voice of a mayor carries weight. When a mayor speaks, a community listens. It can shift perspectives, eliminate truth, move people toward empathy, and give my mother something she has been denied for decades, a genuine chance to heal. So I'm asking you as her daughter, begging my mother's peace, please help us, please speak up, please give this community permission to care again. We are exhausted, we're hurting, and we're desperately asking for compassion from the leaders who represent us. Thank you for listening, and please, from the bottom of my heart, help us bring this injustice to an end so that my family can finally breathe again. Thank you.
Oh, well, there you go, folks. Now dry in place. I mean, just let those words sink in for a minute. That's the pain of a daughter, of a family torn apart. You know, when the video ends, like this, the air is different. Suddenly all the legal vocabulary, wrongful conviction, misconduct, motion to vacate, suppressed evidence is no longer abstract, right? It's right there in your face. It has a daughter. It has a 68-year-old woman who still wakes up afraid that the knock at the door means someone is coming to take her back. Amber told the city, this is not about politics. This is about basic human dignity. My mother deserves peace. She said, you may not have put my mother in prison, but you're watching it happen again, and silence is complicity. These are not threats. These are not accusations. They are facts spoken by a child who survived something she should have never had to see or go through. And now, decades later, she's watching the system try to do it to her again. Because here we have our manly prosecutor, Mr. Tony Silva, out there, whose office can't bother to figure out how to give out records right, who's more concerned about chasing after J.D. Tomlinson than it is about moving forward and actually looking at what's going on in our county today, has filed a 305-page motion in 2025 attempting to undo Nancy's exoneration, right? Not based on new evidence that Nancy committed a crime, but based on the administrative disputes, internal disagreements, conspiracy theories, and office politics. Nancy Smith was exonerated in 22 because no crime had ever been committed. Let that sink in. Hear nothing else today. Hear that. Nancy Smith was exonerated in 2022 because no crime had ever been committed. That was the prosecutor's own admission at the time. Amber lived through the first wrongful prosecution, right? She shouldn't have to live through a second. And I refuse to let her do it alone. This is not going to happen. Not on my watch, folks. You know, maybe I didn't sit through the first one, but I damn sure I'm not going to sit through a second one. So when I first spoke to her, I told her something very simple. I don't need to like someone to defend them. I just need to know something wrong is happening. But with her, it became something stronger, because she's not asking for fame. She's not asking for pity. She's not asking for vengeance. She's asking for finality, for peace, for the right for her mother to grow old without fear. Isn't that a right that all of us would want? Imagine just for a second it's your mom, and you lost all those years. You look at her. I saw a picture of her the other day, and she was roller skating last summer, and I was just joking with her. I was like, she's like, looks like she's wearing like a romper from when she was a kid, roller skating, and the joy in her eyes showed me, that moment, that was the childhood that was stolen from her. And you see it in that moment during that summer, and then now Silo comes along and just rips it away from her again, and that's heartbreaking. It's not right. She's just not right. Our mission has started out very professional. Our relationship has, but our mission is very shared. To expose the misconduct, to document the truth, to preserve the evidence, and to make sure history cannot be rewritten again. No, it's not gonna. Because that's the theme running through all of this, right? Sheffield Lake rewrote the rules. Lorraine rewrote the weapons laws. Council rewrote the minutes. And now a prosecutor wants to rewrite an exoneration. Amber and I are not gonna, we're not trying to rewrite anything. We're restoring. We're preserving. We're forcing the truth back into a system that tried to erase it. Amber ended her speech with a plea. She's asking for anyone to stand up and say, this is wrong. It's got to stop. And if we can't protect the innocent, then, what's the system even for? And she's right. Government exists to protect, prevent injustice, not repeat it. The fact that she even has to make this plea in 2025 is a fucking disgrace. And that disgrace belongs on every official and any official who suppressed evidence in 94, ignored wrongdoing in 2009, forced plea deals in 2013, fought exoneration in 21, and who are now trying to undo the exoneration in 2025. That's why Amber's story is not a side note in this episode. It's the heart. Because every chapter, Sheffield Lake, Lorraine's ordinance, the Minute scandal, it's about the systems bending the truth. Her chapter is about what happens when the truth bends to human life. It affects it. The pattern's been hiding in plain sight. In case you made it this far in the episode and you're noticing something, well, guess what? None of these stories, not Sheffield Lake, not Lorraine's illegal ordinance, not the Minute scandal, not even Amber's plea for her mother, stand on their own. They all form a pattern, a blueprint, a systematic way of governing where power protects itself, criticism triggers retaliation, and records are altered before the truth becomes inconvenient. Deadlines only matter when used as weapons. The law is optional, accountability is performative, and human consequences are ignored unless politically useful. It's a culture built on a public service, but it's built on control. It's public service based on control. A culture where, the truth is not discovered, it's decided. Whoever holds the pen, whoever writes the minutes, whoever drafts the ordinances, clerks, whoever signs the criminal charge, whoever edits the record. Guys, this isn't a conspiracy. And I know a lot of people think that. This is what documented evidence shows. I have it. In Sheffield Lake, a mayor responded to political criticism with a cease and desist. Criminal allegations, not because the law was violated, but because someone dared to challenge him publicly. No fraud, no deception, no cybersecurity threat. The website looked like a website, not a government page. Case Western Review, First Amendment Clinic reviewed it, said the threat was legally baseless, yet the government used law enforcement language anyway. Why? Because they use it as a weapon. That's why, because they don't think voters' choices matter. When the law when that didn't work, the city shifted its post-election disqualification to going after Aiden Fogel. They didn't file a challenge on time. They didn't object to this, the election. They waited until after the election, after losing, suddenly to claim an old conviction, which the law doesn't disqualify for, was grounds for removal. Why? Because in a corrupt system, deadlines only matter when they work in your favor. And if voters pick the wrong person, right, the system tries again. Not through persuasion, through procedure. Then we move to Lorain. City Council rewrote Chapter 549 in a way that directly violated RC 9.68, Ohio Supreme Court precedent, basic limits on municipal power. I handed them it in print. I handed them the law. I gave them the corrected language. I explained why it was illegal. Their answer, between 4 doctorates in our office, we got the smartest department in the city. Dumbasses. So they passed it. The arrogance. The fucking arrogance that they show floating above us like their shit don't stink has elevated themselves into policy. They believe they're too intelligent to be bound by the fucking law. The law collapses, right? So the arrogance elevated to policy. When officials believe they are too intelligent to be bound by the law collapses. There's your quote. Because in a corrupt system, law applies downward, not upward, right? You can't apply the same law to Carrion that you applied to Garen Petty, right? You can't apply any of the same things that you do to us, because the Garen said he lost for thee, not for me, right? When the record's altered to frame the critic, I have audio proof of Ray doing what he did. He yelled it at me 3 times. Mary tries to stop him. You clearly hear it on the play. I'm not going to play it again. Mary Springowski tries to stop him. You hear Demakia trying to stop him. And you hear me responding after he shouts at me. But in the records, they removed the shouting, Mary's intervention, and the entire context. They left in my response on purpose. And when I presented evidence to the clerk, she refused to do anything on camera to correct the record. It's not incompetence. It's not a typo. It's not an oversight. It's institution. It's basically insinuation. It's protecting one official. It's framing a disabled resident, and it's creating an official record that contradicts reality. Because in a corrupt system, the truth is whatever they write down. And then the masterpiece of this whole systematic failure, Nancy Smith case. A case where children were coached. Physical exams showed no abuse. Evidence was suppressed. Investigators were removed for raising doubt. A prosecutor admitted in 2022 that no crime ever occurred. No crime ever occurred. No crime ever occurred. That's right, folks. Only Sunday, you'll hear the prosecutor as he admits to, in 2022, that no crime ever occurred. That's right, folks. You heard it. We'll say the whole scene, but you'll only need the edge. And a judge vacated the conviction, right? Judge Karen, just boom, gone. Nancy, exonerated, done, right? Amber finally allowed herself to friggin' have some hope. Got to roller skate around, and her little romper acting like she was 12 again, feeling her 9 again, however old she was when they stole her mother from her. Feeling the childlike joy of being able to enjoy a summer as she once did as a child. Finally able to regain that little piece of herself that everyone stole from her, ripped away from her. She finally allowed herself to have a little bit of hope. And in 2025, Scylla comes along and just 305-page attack on the exoneration. Not because of new evidence, not because Nancy did anything wrong, not because Amber did anything wrong, not because the original accusations were valid, but because those internal politics and the rivalries between JD and everyone created a new narrative. Think about the insanity of that. When the facts didn't support prosecuting Nancy, they attacked the exoneration process instead. When the facts didn't support re-prosecuting Nancy, they attacked the exoneration process instead. That doesn't break your heart. I don't know what will. I'm gonna tell you right now, like I deeply, I don't feel for a lot of things, and I definitely don't show emotions. But if I had like super emotions and stuff, I would say like I know that there's something in here that feels a very certain sort of way about what they did to Nancy, but more importantly, also to her daughter. And her Nancy would agree with that, because Nancy is also going to have to carry the fact that her children lost her tutelage for all of their lives, and she has to carry that weight. The weight, the generational trauma that's been placed upon this family breaks my friggin' heart. And if any of you have ever come into her life with intent to capitalize on this or make some sort of a money or anything or fraud on her or record her or have any ill will towards her, then shame on you. God's sakes, like that's like, dude, that's like taking someone who lost their arms and their legs and their voice and throwing them in the ocean and saying, swim away, little one, or call for help. I mean, that's just some of the meanest crap I've ever heard. Like, you know, you want to beat me up on a bar floor, that's fine. But for God's sakes, leave this woman alone. Like, I can't with you folks. Because in a corrupt system, a mistake can never be admitted, right? Even after 30 years. Maybe that's because some of the players are still rolling around in wheelchairs. But, you know, people like Amber and Nancy are forced to relive the trauma they never should have experienced in the first place, folks. The system itself is the scandal. When you put these stories all side by side, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Retaliation against critics in Sheffield Lake, manipulation of eligibility against the Fogel Challenge, the rewriting the law, Lorraine's illegal ordinance, rewriting the record, the minute scandal, rewriting history, attempts to undo Nancy Smith's exoneration, the tickets issue. That's huge. The fact that we're going to catch a class action lawsuit and our judges referring to us as monetary flows and it's going to slow the revenue stream. This is not a series of accidents, folks. This is governance through intimidation, retaliation, narrative control, legal distortion, administrative manipulation. And people always ask, is this corruption or incompetence? Well, the truth is it's friggin' both. But incompetence doesn't explain patterns. Corruption does. Officials who fear accountability use procedure as a shield. Officials who fear criticism use the law as a weapon. Officials who fear transparency rewrite the record. And officials who fear losing control go after the innocent again and again and again, because admitting the past wrongdoing threatens present power. And this is why we fight, folks. We fight against Sheffield because political speech matters. We fight against Lorraine's illegal ordinance because the laws have to be obeyed and the people who write them. We fight against the minute scandal because the truth can't be edited. I fight for Amber because her mother deserves peace. And more importantly, I fight because a system built on lies survives only when no one challenges the first one. Hear that again. A system built on lies survives only when no one challenges the first one. That's the theme. That's the theme here. Corruption is not an event. It's a process, a culture. It's a muscle memory of power that grows from law director to law director, from police chief to police chief, from officer to officer, from law to law, councilwoman to councilwoman, councilman to councilman, public servant to public servant, and it grows stronger every time the public shrugs and moves on. I'm not going to shrug anymore. I'm not moving. I'm not going to be quiet ever. That refusal, this persistence is what ties every one of these chapters together. Because when the systems fail, movements begin. And the movement's not just mine. The movement belongs to all of us. But it especially belongs to people like Amber and her mom, Nancy. It belongs to Garen Petty. It belongs to James Mauricio. It belongs to, every resident mislabeled in a false record. Every citizen ignored at the podium. Every voter whose choice was attacked. Every person who's been punished for telling the truth. This is why I document. This is why you should document. This is why I investigate. This is why you should send me your stuff. This is why I file lawsuits. That and they tell me to. This is why I speak. I speak for me, and I hopefully sometimes speak for you. The truth only wins when someone refuses to let it die, folks. And this is, what brings us to the end of today's, monumental, Jesus. Anyway, if you've listened to this entire episode, all 2 hours of it, right, and some change, I'm sure, coming up on 2 hours of it, you will understand something that most people never see. Corruption isn't loud. It's quiet. It's subtle. It's procedural. It hides in the minutes. It hides in the ordinances. It hides in the late-filled challenges and unethical letters and emotions written 30 years after a woman was wrongfully convicted. Corruption thrives in the shadows of the city halls and not the headlines. It survives in the small moments, the vote nobody questions, the letter nobody challenges, the meeting minutes nobody bothers to ever verify, right? But here's the truth, folks. It survives only when people stop paying attention. When you stop looking, they start doing. Well, guess what? That's not happening anymore, folks. Not on my watch. You know, I can tell you there's one person that said it to him before. They're my new hobby. I am a journalist now. This is what I do. It's not going to happen anymore. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be investigating. If you're doing something wrong, I'm going to find it. And again, it's not personal. I don't have personal feelings against any of you. I don't dislike any of you. If all of you straightened up right now, today, I would totally be apathetic to everything you're doing. I don't have personal issues with any of you. I've spoken to other people in other cities, law directors and the like, and they're like, you know, because people watch and they ask and they talk. We talk to police officers, and they're like, you know, you talk about us. And I was like, that's because you haven't done anything wrong. I said, don't do anything wrong, or guess what? You probably won't be friendly with me anymore. Just ask Sheriff Hall. You know, lines were crossed with people, but it's not going to happen anymore. Not in Sheffield Lake, not in Lorraine, not in the prosecutor's office, not in a city council chambers where someone thinks that they can just yell across the room like a freaking, you know, like it's vaudeville. Mr. Knapp, you say something? You say something? Yeah, of course I did. I've always got something to say, you jackass. You're not going to rewrite PDFs, and I'm not going to let the public, you know, swallow the lie anymore. I read the minutes. I read everything you do. I read the laws, and I'm going to read them. You're not going to do it in a courtroom where a 305-page motion tries to undo the truth, and, you know, that a prosecutor himself that was duly elected acknowledged in 2022 that no crime had ever been committed in the Nancy Smith case. Now, I would like to point out that, you know, there's a lot of players involved in that. I even believe one of the players might be our current prosecuting attorney, I think. I mean, that's a good question to ask because, you know, not anymore, though, because people are watching, the people are documenting, the people are fighting back because I am listening, right? You know, I'm listening to the people that are saying, right now. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, if you're listening right now and you heard these stories, then you're going to remember them. You're going to remember the human cost of government lies. You're going to realize that this, for what it really is. When Sheffield Lake tries to silence Moreau, the cost is free speech. When they tied that, you know, when they're trying to undo Fogel's election, the cost is democracy. And again, Fogel and I have no love lost between us, but I don't give a shit. What's right is right. You're not going to undo democracy. They voted for it. Sorry. Just like they voted for Angel. Sorry, Aaron. Too bad, so sad. Come back next 2 years. That's the way it works, folks. It's an election. Big deal. Try again in 2 years. Or 4 if that's when they do theirs. But Lorraine passed an illegal ordinance. The cost was the rule of law. And when the minutes were altered, the cost was the truth and my civil rights. But nothing can compare. Nothing compares to you. To the cost paid by Nancy Smith and her daughter Amber. A wrongful conviction. A childhood spent in fear. 15 years in prison, you know, for crimes that never occurred, a lifetime of trauma, then decades later, an attempt to pull her right back into the nightmare. Jesus, you guys are something else. You know, people call me like the jerk. I think maybe it's time some of y'all looked in the mirror. At least I'm an honest asshole. The rest of you folks are hiding behind sheep's clothing. That's the cost of corruption, folks. That's the cost of lies, and that's the cost of officials' value and control over the truth. You want to understand why I do this? Why Darren does it? Why others are starting to do it? Why James is recording? Why you see this happening across the country? Why we write? Why we file? Why we show up? Why we document? And why we refuse to stay silent? It's for people like Auntie, people like Amber, people like the residents misrepresented in meeting minutes. I mean, go look in New Russia Township. Go look at any county commissioner meetings. Go look at the people getting targeted, you know, journalists being targeted, the Jones brothers. Look at all of it. People targeting, you know, with cease and desist letters for daring to speak. I got one from the Chronicle. Moreau got one from, you know, the city. These people think they can do whatever they want. It's not politics. It's not entertainment. And it's not gossip. This is real life, folks, with real friggin' consequences. I mean, Every story in this episode, folks, is ongoing. Sheffield Lake is still trying to navigate the fallout of its own retaliation playbook. Fogel is Fogel's still gonna have to deal with this legal challenge if they do it. Still hanging over that 72% mandate like an insult to democracy. Lorraine's weapons ordinance is now filed and in court. We filed a lawsuit. Now it's in the court system, headed towards a ruling that will set precedents for years. Minute scandal, subject to litigation, hold investigations, ADA implications, public scrutiny. Nancy Smith's fight, still all at risk because a prosecutor wants to undo an exoneration based on not new evidence, but on ego, politics, and the fear of admitting the state failed an innocent woman. My work, our work continues. Because this isn't the end of the story, folks. This is the moment before the turn. I know this is a long one, and we're going to finish it up here in a second, but this is the moment before the turn. This is the moment when the systems expect us to get tired. This is what they're waiting on. We always say, there's an old adage in the military, getting your military disability was the VA will just do this. They'll deny, delay, deny, and wait till you die. Deny, delay, and wait till you die. Hope that they die. What do you think they're doing with Nancy? She's not a spring chicken. They want to just outweight us. But the problem is, folks, as one of my friends pointed out recently, is that I'm not old-ish enough to be outweighted. And this is the moment when the governments are counting on the public to just move on. They don't want you to hear about Nancy. They don't want you to hear about Garen, Aaron, any of this shit. That's why the naysayers come out. You ever wonder all the people attacking us? Just go look at their friends list and you'll know why. This is the moment when they think that the headlines have faded, the pressure is cooled, and they're wrong. They're wrong. Because the truth they don't want to hear is that a government cannot silence a person who documents everything. And that's me. That's me. That's me. I've got my setup, and now I am a reporter. My press pass will be here soon. I'm going to do what I did when I was a young journalist and a young man. We're going to go back to feeling young again. I've been inspired by someone like Amber, who has gone back to her roller skating roots and found childlike joy in the simple things in life, even though this government and this police force and these people in this community have tried to rip away her childlike innocence, take away any progress she ever has of making it, and destroy her life on a regular. I'm going to take some pride and some inspiration from her and go back to some childhood loves. I was also a photographer. I love taking pictures. We're going to do a little bit of that. I like pictures. Even in my bag, I got a camera. A government cannot intimidate someone who has already been through the worst, folks. A government cannot rewrite the minutes when the audio exists. A government cannot erase vote after vote when the results are certified. And a government damn sure can't legislate against the state law and expect people to just look the other way. A government cannot undo an extortion and expect the family to quietly accept it. And a government sure as hell cannot rely on public ignorance anymore, because I'm here and I'm paying attention. And I'm not afraid to put my name on the line. You guys have already, the government's already shit all over my name. So, because when I speak in full fucking paragraphs, receipts in hand, statutes memorized, deadlines printed out, and my camera is always on, folks. They don't know what to do with me. Lorraine City doesn't know what to do with me. Ray Carrion, Bradley, none of them. Because I keep doing what I say I'm going to do. You say sue me? Okay. You guys want to cry about, Aaron sues a lot. They told me to. Kick rocks. That's why they fear me. So, the promise I'm going to make you today is that every story, every chapter, every minute is going to lead to these promises. I'm not going to let them rewrite the truth anymore. I don't care if it's people I like or people I don't like, according to you guys, because I don't really hate or like or dislike anybody. Your professional capacity is your professional capacity, but I'm not going to let them rewrite the truth. Not in Sheffield Lake, not in Lorraine, not in the prosecutor's office, not in the minutes, not in the ordinances, not in the court filings, not in the narrative about Nancy Smith, not in the explanation about what happened to a disabled resident in a council chamber, not in the lies told to protect officials who should have resigned years ago, Joelle. The truth stand because we will stand it up. The truth will stand because we're going to stand it up and we're going to stand behind it. We're going to hold it up. We're going to wave it like a flag like Old Glory in the Wind. The record will be corrected because we will correct it. I will correct it. And the people who are out there causing harm, you people who are out there abusing power, you people who have weaponized authority, you government actors, you think that you're untouchable. You think that no one's watching. You're going to learn something that you've never expected. And that's the fact that someone is always watching. Someone's always documenting. And someone will always refuse to go away eventually. And you found him. You found someone that has the unique skill set from the military to hurry up and wait. I'm going to end this episode the way that Amber ended her speech. Because it's been a long one. And we're right at the 2-hour mark, and I got to get going. But her words say everything. If we cannot protect the innocent, then what is this system even for? That's the question that should haunt every official in Lorain County and Lorain City tonight. It's the question that drives this show, this episode, this investigation, and every ounce of the work I have ahead of me. I can't thank you enough, folks, for listening. I thank you for caring. Thank you for refusing to look away. Thank you for supporting Amber and her mom. You know, love, hate, whatever you think about me. Thank you. I'm Aaron Knapp. Stay vigilant. Stay loud. Stay relentless. And most importantly, stay unplugged, folks. All I can say is this. Law enforcement, do me a favor. Be lawful. Not awful, because that's really the true statement of it all. I feel like we need to get on board. We all need to get on the same page. And whether or not you like people or not, you need to hold your government accountable to the laws that they write and the rules that they're supposed to make you follow, they need to follow as well. So, if you haven't educated yourself on who Amber Smith is, or Amber Brownish, if you haven't looked into her and seen her story and her plight, I strongly suggest you do. I know you guys have all seen my stuff, but this has been a broadcast brought to you by Unplugged with Aaron Knapp. Thanks for staying by through this whole long thing, and we'll talk to you guys next time.